This is We All Be, news-free Dixie for the 21st century. See how it works? Somewhere. Can you dig it?
Okay.
Tank what you do, it's the way that you do it. Tank what you do, it's the way that you do it. Tank what you do, it's the way that you do it. That what gets results. Welcome everybody. We are back once again. Though it's June the 6th. It's that time to honor the one and only James Melvin Lunceford, but his friends and supporters and fans call him Jimmie. Jimmie Lunceford, the greatest of the great, the GOAT of the GOAT. It's an honor to be here. I feel that breeze. The ancestors are talking to me and you. So why do we honor the one and only Jimmie Lunceford? I mean, he dedicated 45 years of his life to excellence and just being a true, terrific human being. So this is what started me on this journey to honor Mr. Lunceford. It was a quote I want to read for the record from the one and only Nat D. Williams, one of the first black radio disc jockeys in all the land. You see, black radio was invented in Memphis, Tennessee. October 25th, 1948 was the premiere of what became known as WDIA. It was the first radio station in the whole country of the United States of America to have a black radio format that was dedicated to attracting the black consumer and listener. Now, so black radio was invented here. So let me read this quote. I think it's very important from Nat D. Williams. And thank y'all for y'all patience. You know that we love you madly. Let's see if I found this quote. It says this: Jimmie Lunceford was buried here in Memphis. The spot he occupies should have something of a special significance. He took a group of relatively unsophisticated Memphis colored boys and wielded them into an organization which scaled the heights of musical eminence. He presented something new in the way of musical presentations by Negro orchestras. Lunceford and many others like him chose to remain at home and with their people. His death should have meaning and inspiration and guidance to others. If we permit it, Lunceford's burial in Memphis can mean this. This is from Nat D. Williams. So this is why I'm here, to plant this seed, and hopefully one season it will grow into a mighty harvest to recognize the king, the real king of swing, Jimmie Lunceford. And I want to read something from one of his peers, because it's funny how time just fly by and gets away from us and narratives are changed for whatever reason. But Jimmie Lunceford was the #1 band leader for black people of the 30s and 40s. He was the #1 dance band. The Jimmie Lunceford Orchestra was the #1 dance band of choice for black people in America. It was known as the Harlem Express for that reason. But this is what Glenn Miller said, you know, the white band leader, legendary swing band leader. Like, if Jimmie Lunceford is Magic Johnson, then Glenn Miller is Larry Bird, as far as I'm concerned. That's how the Mutual Respect Society. But he said Jimmie Lunceford has the best of all bands. Duke Ellington is great. Count Basie is remarkable, but Lunceford tops them both. Now here's the thing. People know for the most part about the great Duke Ellington, one of my favorites. The great Count Basie, one of my favorites. I always tell people Duke is the greatest American composer. But they forgot about Lunceford. Put some respect on that man's name. The reason why they probably forgot about Mr. Lunceford was because, unlike Duke and Count, they all lived to be almost 80 years old. Jimmie was taken away from us at a far too young age of 45. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. But I want to give some context about Mr. Lunceford. I think it's very interesting. He was born June 6, 1902 in Fulton, Mississippi. Now, some sources online would say he was born in Fulton, Missouri. I don't call it Missouri or Missouri, I call it Missouri, the state of Missouri. Actually went to school in the state of Missouri. But he was born in Fulton. Not even in Fulton, actually, but outside of Fulton, a community called Evergreen, I believe, which was a predominantly black community, a lot of black land ownership. So he came from a family of means and prominence that owned a lot of land. But he actually left Mississippi very young, grew up in places like Oklahoma, ended up settling in a place called Denver, Colorado, where he was taught by Wilberforce Whiteman, who was the music superintendent of the Denver public schools. Wilberforce Whiteman was a white man who believed that all children should have a sound foundation in music, education, and appreciation. So that was his first music teacher. And also Wilberforce Whiteman was the father of Paul Whiteman, who was the so-called king of jazz back in the 20s. He's the guy that commissioned George Gershwin for Rhapsody in Blue. But also, his father was the mentor to not only Jimmie Lunceford, but also Andy Kirk. These are two of the most important swing band leaders of the 30s and 40s. They were taught by Wilberforce Whiteman in Denver, Colorado. And Jimmie was also a very gifted, not only a musician, he could play anything he laid his hands on. His mom was a gifted pianist, a church pianist, organist, but also he was athletically blessed. He excelled in track and field, boxing, football, baseball, you name it. He was a gifted athlete, but he had a thing for music. He ended up going to school at Fisk University back in the 20s. It was a Fisk University class in 1926, where he majored actually in social work, but also he had his own band playing around gigs in the Nashville area. So that's what he did. And now that's a story I like to share. I never get too old or too tired telling this story about Mr. Lunceford. He fell in love with the daughter of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, Yolanda Du Bois. That was his only daughter, I believe. He was madly in love with her. She was madly in love with him. But her father, even though he was a Fisk man, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois went to Fisk. He was a Fisk man, a man of respect. He did not care for Mr. Lunceford. Partially probably because he was into that secular music, maybe perhaps. Because Jimmie Lunceford was a very striking figure. He was what you would call tall, dark, and handsome. A very handsome guy, very intelligent. When you were in his presence, according to people that knew him, you could tell he was the leader. He was an alpha man. So, he was a Kappa man, but he was an alpha in terms of being a leader. So, Dr. Du Bois did not approve of the arrangement. So he did arrange a marriage with his daughter to Countee Cullen, who was the poet laureate of the Harlem Renaissance. Kind of like Countee Cullen was like a prodigy, kind of like Tiger Woods or the Williams sisters. He was very good at an early age at wordplay. So he was a great poet. It was called the wedding of the decade at that time. But little did anybody know that Countee Cullen was more in love with his best man than his woman. So he was actually in love with his best man named Harold Jackman, who was a model and an educator. He was known as the finest man in Harlem. You can Google him. I'm not judging. But he chose his best man over his woman. And so they had the marriage annulled. But Jimmie never lost a love for Yolanda. Even though she married somebody else, he always had a thing for her, according to sources and whatnot. And so Jimmie ended up going to school up in Columbia, up in New York, teacher college, whatever, came back to Memphis, back down south, started at Manassas High School back in the 20s, was hired to be a coach, football, baseball, track and field, gym coach, anything but music instructor. But he was in social work, and he knew that you could use music as a way to build community. He used music as a way to build a rite of passage for young black boys and girls to become responsible and accountable black men and women. So he used the music not only as a way to entertain, but to also instill community pride and discipline in these young people. So he is oftentimes credited with being the first person to teach jazz studies in a formal educational setting anywhere in the world. So this is a black man from Mississippi, raised in Colorado, went to the HBCU, and went to a school in North Memphis, what is now known as North Memphis Manassas High School, which was a Rosenwald school. It was the first fully accredited high school for black people in Shelby County, Tennessee. So that's a big deal. And he started his band. They called themselves the Chickasaw Syncopators. and they would play. They were very popular playing gigs around the Memphis area, the Mid-South area. And Jimmie Lunceford was a master marketer. He knew how to use radio to promote his band, and so they were very popular in demand. So by 1930, Jimmie Lunceford leaves. Well, I'll tell you, Memphis is such an interesting place. Before I get to that point, Memphis don't get a lot of credit for its amazing jazz history. All right, when Jimmie Lunceford was living in Memphis, one of his best friends was Mary Lou Williams, a piano prodigy, and she's to me the mother of modern jazz. Like, she was married to a black guy from Memphis named John Overton Williams, who was a saxophonist for the Andy Kirk band. I talked about Andy Kirk earlier, that he was trained by the same person that trained Jimmie Lunceford, Wilberforce Whiteman, who was the father of Paul Whiteman. But she was living in Memphis at the time when Jimmie Lunceford was here. So they would be card playing buddies. Sometimes they'll gig together and whatnot. And also, you had Lil Hardy Armstrong, who was Louis Armstrong's second wife. You know, Sasmo's second wife that made him a superstar. You dig it, Cat Daddy? That's the woman that made him who we know as Louis Armstrong, as Pops. She was his second wife. She was born and raised in Memphis. So you had a lot of in it. Charlie Parker, father's from Memphis, Tennessee, with Clarksdale, Mississippi connection. So Miles Davis once said it best: the four most important words in jazz history, Louis Armstrong and Charlie Parker, and they all connected to Memphis. And by the way, Miles Davis' music hero growing up was Jimmie Lunceford. He used to listen to Jimmie Lunceford broadcast live from the Cotton Club on the radio in East St. Louis. So that was his music hero. And I'll bring up Miles because Miles talked about in his autobiography how he kept on getting all these amazing musicians from Manassas High School. He kept on telling me, I get these guys, Harold Mayburn and George Coleman and Frank Stroger. They went to school with a trumpet player named Booker Little, one of the greatest of all time. And he's saying, what they doing at that one school to produce all these people? Not realizing probably that his music hero started that tradition, Jimmie Lunceford, and he benefited from it decades later. So that is something to think about and marinate on in terms of Memphis' contribution to American music history. It's very big. So Jimmie left Memphis in 1930. He took his best high school students and buddies from Fisk University, including Willie Smith and Edwin Wilcox, and they struggled on the road for several years. Sharing bologna, cheese, and crackers and everything, and ain't we lucky we got them, good times type of stuff going on. And then one day back in 33, 34, they become the house band at the Cotton Club after Duke Ellington and Cab Calloway. And so Jimmie Lunceford had a distinctive sound. It was called the Lunceford 2-beat, or the 2-beat sound, very distinctive syncopation sound that really lended itself to a dance crazed public. So that's why he became the most popular swing band for black people in America, because he had a distinctive sound that really drove people to get down on the dance floor. So that's very important to note. And what I love about Mr. Lunceford, I'm trying to zone it in, what I love about Mr. Lunceford was the fact that no matter how big he got, and how famous he got, and how wealthy he got, he always gave back. Like, he would come back to Memphis, for example, and go to his old stomping grounds at Manassas High School, put on free concerts and musician clinics at Manassas High School to encourage the students. Now, one of his disciples or fans or proteges was Mr. Emerson Abel Jr. Mr. Emerson Abel Jr. became one of the greatest music educators in this city. He was the band director at Manassas High School when he kicked Isaac Hayes out the band. Ended up working for Isaac Hayes at Stax, White Stax, all this stuff, worked for a lot of people. But Mr. Lunceford was an inspiration for him. He was particularly moved by Mr. Lunceford's tenor saxophonist, Joe B. Thomas, from Kansas City. Joe Thomas really inspired him to become really good on his saxophone. But also, he's the founder of the Southern Heritage Classic, where they do the Battle of the Bands. So he actually founded that in his living room, not that far from here, with Fred Jones. So he was, I do this in honor of him because he was a great advocate for Mr. Lunceford while he was alive. And he just loved that man. And he loved the example he set for other people to come. So he would always give back. He would start like music education programs for kids around the country. Like, he'd put seed money in there because he knew that if you had a sound foundation in music, it might keep you out of trouble. It helped them get focused and disciplined. Like I said, he saw music as a rite of passage for young people, for our people. And also, he owned and flew his own airplane, which is interesting. He started taking flight lessons, I believe, in 1939. And by 1940, he bought his first airplane for like would be almost $500,000 today's money. So he was flying the gigs and whatnot. Hey, Dr. Hurd, this is my mom, Dr.
Hey,
He was flying the gigs and whatnot in his airplane. Sometimes he actually crashed his airplane when they would walk away from it. And his wife, he had married a woman who was an English teacher at Booker T. Washington High School named Crystal Tully. So they got married instead of him in London. So she actually flew airplanes too. And Jimmie Lunceford, he loved, like Dr. D. Williams said, he just loved black people. That he could live anywhere. But he chose to live among his people, whether it be in Harlem, Edgecombe Avenue, Stuyvesant Road, or White Plains, New York, where his neighbors include the Nicholas brothers and Adam Clayton Powell Jr. and Hazel Scott, the Right Reverend Representative Adam Clayton Powell Jr. So I had talked to one of his nephews, Marvin Tarpley, and he talked about how Jimmie will help. They call him Piggy because he gained some weight. He was eating good. They called him Piggy. That was his nickname. And so he would drive. He would put his nephew on his back on his motorcycle, his Harley Davidson. They would drive through the neighborhood. Sometimes he'll take his nephew and his sister up in the airplane. And it's like he just had an amazing time with Mr. Lunceford. He was about 7 years old when he passed. So what happened to Mr. Lunceford? Now I will tell you this about Mr. Lunceford. I told you he was a social worker, right? His vision was to find real estate somewhere in this country and start a retirement community for black musicians. So he was working on that when he died. He was saving up money, trying to find land to buy so he could start. He was ahead of his time. Like, not only was he taking care of the young people, helping them become responsible adults, but also he wanted to take care of the older people, you know, once they did their thing. So he was about the village. He was a village builder, you know, everywhere he went. But unfortunately, his career was cut short. His life was cut short. July 12th, 1947. Folklore has it, you know, Jimmie, they said that you got into it with a restaurant owner that didn't want to serve black people in Oregon. Now, people got to understand, Oregon became a state in 1859. This is 2 years before the start of the Civil War. Oregon said that in their constitution that black folks could not live, work, or own property there. They didn't want black folks in Oregon. It was white man's land. So Jimmie was a proud black man. You know, he flew his own airplane. This is at a time when they didn't want to teach black folks how to fly airplane. Like, look at Tuskegee Airmen. They didn't want to teach black folks how to fly. You had Bessie Coleman. You know, she had to get a pilot's license in France. She couldn't get it here in America like Amelia Earhart and stuff like that. So allegedly he argued with the staff at the restaurant. He said they wanted hamburgers. He said, this is not Dixieland. This is the North. But like Malcolm X said, anything south of Canada is Mississippi. So they said, okay, we'll give you something. He said, we don't have hamburgers, we have beef sandwiches. And there was no Arby's back then. Arby's didn't get invented until 1964. So like they had some roast beef sandwiches. A lot of the band ate them. They had a gig that night at the place called the Bungalow. But Jimmie, before the gig, was signing autographs at the racket shop. And somehow he had an incident that either he dropped dead there or he died later on in the hospital. Some people claim it was a heart attack. Other folks said he was poisoned. Members of the band said they felt kind of nauseous on the bandstand. They went to the restroom. They were throwing up. Some members of the band who ate the sandwiches. But now all of them gone, so we don't really know what happened. The only way I think we could really know what happened would be to exhume his body, and the relatives got to do that. I don't know. But I think it would be worthwhile to exhume. I don't mean to disturb the dead. It would be worthwhile just to know what happened to Mr. Lunceford. So I'm going to wrap it up. Jimmie had 2 funerals. He had one up in New York where all the black entertainment elite who's who came out, like Pearl Bailey, Sammy Davis Jr. Then he had a homegoing here in Memphis where a lot of his Memphis people came out. And it was a story. Now, not too far away from here, Jimmie Lunceford's best friend is buried here, H.D. Whalum Sr. He's the patriarch of the Whalum family. If you know about Kirk Whalum, that's his grandfather. So he was Jimmie Lunceford's best friend. And I believe he was from Mississippi as well, too. So when Jimmie Lunceford died, he sung at his funeral. Like he made a deal, like whatever happens to whoever, you take care of the other person's family. So he sung at Jimmie Lunceford's funeral, and on the way back from the funeral, he died in a car accident. So he's buried not that far away with his wife over there. And now people say, well, there's an empty slot on here. Where's his wife? Well, Crystal Tully lived a little bit longer than Jimmie. She ended up getting remarried, and I think she died in Florida, maybe within the last 20, 25 years. So I actually talked to her nephew, which is Jimmie's nephew by marriage, and he was over there at the estate at the time, Marvin Tarpley. So I'm still trying to track him down. But his parents are buried not too far over here, the Tarpleys. So anyway, I want to, before I close out, I want to give maybe a few words from one of his blood folk, Sister Janice. You want to say a couple words? I know y'all got to go, but thank you so much for coming out.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the tremendous research you've done.
Okay.
I have learned.
Yeah.
I came here because I wanted to meet you. I've heard great things about you.
Oh, thank you, appreciate it.
And your research is just, it's wonderful. And
Thank
this
you.
will be great. We are actually celebrating our legacy June the 16th through 18th in Tupelo, Mississippi. Celebrating our present relatives as well as those our ancestors. Jimmie Lunceford is one of them. Another one is Dr. Queenie Randolph.
Okay.
But we're all in the same family. So I hope, I know you're busy. I wish you could pop in and speak to us. But I'm truly, actually, I'm just glad to meet you.
It's an honor to meet both of you and your husband.
Yeah.
Very patient over there. I appreciate it. So this is my mom, Dr. Mom. But before we get out of here,
It's nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.
Hopefully I can come to the festival in October.
we'll let you know. But you might mind doing the honors here.
So y'all not from Memphis?
We're from Boonville, not far, 2 hours away,
Nice meeting
Mississippi.
you too.
So you mind doing the honors? Putting it over here.
Okay.
Like right there.
Okay.
Think what you do is the way that you do it. Think what you do is the way that you do it. Think what you do is the way that you do it. That what get results. I appreciate y'all. The words of Duke Attn. We love you badly.
And I
Greetings, family. This is your brother Ron, requesting your help to help save We All Be. The feeder needs you all to feed We All Be. We All Be has been under attack due to heavy censorship tactics on social media. They're trying to shut us down, but we won't give up, give in, or give out without a fight, because we all be in it to win it. Please think about donating to the cause. You can try our Venmo, our Cash App, our PayPal options. You can support us through Patreon, our patreon.com/weallbe. You can buy Art of His Art, r2c2h2.com. You can wear Art of His Art. Go to our Teespring, r2c2h2's place. We all be in it to win it. Know that the best is yet to come. And thank you all for your continued support. We love you madly. And please also remember, family, if you want to keep up with all things We All Be, please join our mail list. You can email yours truly, Brother Ron, at weallbe@gmail.com. Once again, that's weallbe@gmail.com to keep up with what's going on with We All Be. Remember, information is power, and knowledge is the currency of the universe. But please, feed We All Be so that the feeder can keep on feeding the people. one love. Can you dig it? I sure can. Amplify blessings, amplify blessings, amplify blessings, and thank you, thank you, thank you. See how it works? Somewhere. And please remember and never forget that we love you madly.